Hey guys, it's Monday the 18th at 5:30. I know I was supposed to post this yesterday because Sunday's my day, but I'm in the midst of packing and finals and getting ready to graduate and move in like 6 days. So things are a bit crazy. So my apologies once again. I didn't post last week on the topic of swimming pre-T or pre-chest surgery, I think is what it was, because I didn't have any experience with that. I didn't have much to say around it. So I didn't feel like I needed to put a video out there to kind of take up space and unnecessary noise pollution. So, but I do feel like I have a lot to contribute with regards to this topic. I appreciate this topic because I think that there's an overemphasis on the physical changes of transition and underemphasis on the other aspects of transition and the adjustments that one must go through. I think it's interesting also because I'm coming off of my first semester back at school after transitioning, and there was a lot of unexpected difficulties for me, and this may not be the experience of other trans people, but it was definitely my experience, and so I feel like I'm going to spend a little time being able to talk about that, which will be good. I think there was a specific question around hands and feet or something, and height, and it's funny because I have a friend who just started T, and he's a shorter guy, and he's really hoping that he grows taller, and my experience of testosterone is that it does not increase your height. What will increase your height is where you are in your own puberty, that although going on hormones is like a second puberty, it's not a complete puberty, so you're unlikely to get taller unless you're still within that age range of growing. But I didn't experience my hands, and my hands got bigger, but not my feet. But I'm also 32, so I think that makes a difference. Someone who starts T at 18, 19, 20, as opposed to somebody who is 25 and older, I think that impacts that. But more importantly, what I want to talk about is what I mentioned of the parts of transition that are not about the physical changes as much, more about the mental and emotional changes, and the things that I think need to get more attention and we need to talk more about. The problem is that I think that these experiences are pretty unique to each individual, and they're not as interesting or as exciting as muscles or hair or voice or any of those sorts of things, and they're a bit more abstract. So for me, being able to figure out a way to connect or meld all of my experiences of being gendered female into my male identity in the present, and specifically what I mean by this is, like, in class, how to engage and participate and show up with my voice, and being able to contribute. If I'm not out in the class, everything that I know and everything that I've experienced has been gendered through female gender identity, external gender identity, and so I don't really know how to talk about things that I know or things that I've experienced, past jobs, past relationships, past interactions, coming from a male body, a male voice, but with a female gendered sort of an experience. And so what that has left me is overwhelmingly silent in my own classes, in my own education, and I struggled a lot with that this semester. The one class that I was out in, I even felt it there as well, because even though they all knew that I was trans, I felt like everything that I was going to say would be discounted as, like, that's just the trans person talking. So there's that piece that how do we, whether we're stealth or not stealth, combine our past life, our past experiences, our past perspectives with our current experience, life, and perspective, to create, I don't know, something that is, it's funny that song just came on in the background. It's on random. So how do we meld the past with the present to create a present voice and a future voice that works for us and works for people around us, whether we want to be stealth or not stealth? The other piece is adjustments with friends and family. I think that once I have to change the music, it's driving me crazy. Okay, sorry. What was I going to say? The adjustment of friends and family and so forth. I think that for a lot of trans people, we experience such disconnect from ourselves and from our bodies and from most experiences in our lives. That when we transition and we start living in an authentic way, and we are read and understood in a way that is congruent with how we see ourselves, and we are validated, I think that by default, relationships and people around us are also going to change because we have changed. Our soul of who we are, the core part of us hasn't changed, but just generally how we experience the world and people around us changes. And I think that oftentimes that is met with fear and concern and resistance from our friends and families and partners. And I compare it to somebody who has to really drastically alter themselves and how they exist in relationships. Somebody maybe who has a drug and alcohol addiction, and then they get sober, and yet all of their friends are still kind of engaging in drug and alcohol addiction. I compare it to that loosely, in the sense that either the friends kind of have to get on board and support the person's sobriety, or the relationships are not going to work. In my own experience, I really engaged in relationships that were very one way, and I would rescue people, or I would attempt to rescue people, because it got to be all about them, and I didn't really have to show up to the relationship. And I'm not really willing to do that any longer, which has been a difficult adjustment for some people in my life, that I now know that I have a voice and I'm going to use it. I think those are the two kind of main things. I mean, I think that there's a lot that can be said about this topic. And again, I think that each experience is going to be pretty unique to the individual, where they live, if they're working, if they're going to school, if they have children, if they have a partner, the relationship with their parents and family, and so forth. But I think that really putting some attention into the adjustment period that is beyond the physical structure of one's body, that comes with transition, that I think I was grossly underprepared for, and I don't know that there's anything I could have done to become more prepared for it. I think it is part of the journey, part of the experience, but I feel like there can be a lack of support during this time, because so many physical changes have occurred, and now a lot of the changes are internal or inside of me, and so people are not necessarily aware that this can still be quite a difficult time for people that are transitioning. I would venture to say that this too, much like the first year you see a peak of physical changes, I think maybe the second year there's a peak of the emotional, mental, spiritual growth of a trans person, and then maybe by year 3, you've arrived at a place where the physical and the mental, emotional have adjusted enough, or you've experienced them enough that it also becomes kind of like a boring old topic. I don't know if that made sense or not. So there's my thoughts on it, and hope everyone is doing well, and see you soon.